is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
To find out his thoughts on the Dolphins draft and some of their pickups, let's bring him aboard. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Safid Dean. Safid, how are you doing, my man?
Big O, I'm doing great, man. How's everything going?
Everything is great, my brother. We are out here at Craig Zinn's. At Toyota of Hollywood.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Craig Zinn. Today's at Toyota of Hollywood.
Part of the same family. But.
Same family, yes, exactly. But we're at Toyota of Hollywood having a good time out here, my brother. So we had Eli Gold on earlier this hour, the voice of Alabama. First of all, the selection of Tua, the gamble on Tua, how do you look at that selection, Safid?
Big O, as you know, as we've talked about so much the last 4 months, you know I've been one of the biggest advocates in the media for Tua down here in Miami. I really wanted to see it happen. I wanted to see the Dolphins actually take a chance on a player, on a special player that could really deliver, that could probably put the Dolphins back on the map nationally, like they were so many years ago with Dan Marino, even before that with the 72 season and the 73 titles back-to-back years there. I'm excited. I'm happy the Dolphins did it. You know, it's funny. The smokescreen stuff was a sight to see. We'll see if some people really did believe it more than others. I was skeptical of most of the things you were hearing all along, but it was nice to see the Dolphins take a chance. You know, it could backfire. It could really go their way. But it was nice to see some conviction out of this franchise for once, and that was probably the happiest thing. That was the thing I was most happy to see.
I came around about 2 weeks ago on the Tua thing. I wasn't a fan to choose him because I'm afraid of the injury history, but about 2 weeks ago I said, you know what? It makes a lot of sense for them because they've got 4,000 picks. And, you know, basically if your draft started at number 18 and on, you're still blessed because you had 14 more picks, you know, from 18 and on. And if you can't have a great draft from that point on, and Tua can be the icing on the cake one way or another. If you have a great draft and Tua fails, you can still have a great draft because everybody understands the risk you took. If you have a great draft and you hit on Tua, it could be the greatest draft in franchise history. So that's the way I had to look at it. Now, if you only had one first-rounder, you know, Safid, that's where the gamble becomes an enormous gamble. But for Miami, with the leverage they had, the draft capital, this really doesn't become that big a gamble.
Well, I would also say, to your point as well, if Tua is the only good player from this draft, it's still a success.
That's right.
Nobody's gonna worry about any of the other players here who didn't make it. But you know, Big O, at 5, you take them. I don't factor in the Dolphins' other picks and all those things that you just mentioned. You know, if you want a player, you go get them. If you have a conviction about a player, you go get them. The Chargers are waiting at 6, waiting for Tua to fall in their lap. They didn't have all the draft picks that the Dolphins have. They didn't have all the chances and the risk, you know, to mitigate to take Tua, and they still would have taken him. You understand what I'm saying? I think all those things about the Dolphins, yeah, sure, it's nice. Yeah, sure, they have a lot of assets, and I think the Dolphins really made out great on this draft. Not only did you take a chance on a quarterback, but you built your offensive line. Brian Flores now has a whole new retooled defense here, along with the work that they did in free agency. So you built up your whole entire defense. You're hoping, you got to remember how this season started for the Dolphins. Lamar Jackson coming in here, dropping a 40-piece on the Dolphins' head. Everybody was wondering what this rebuild season was going to be all about, what this Dolphins team was going to be all about. And you got to remember how the season ended, man, with Patrick Mahomes lighting up Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play with that one play to Tyreek Hill and helping the Chiefs win a Super Bowl. Those are the offenses you're going to have to stop if you want to compete in the AFC, and let alone for a Super Bowl. And the Dolphins are in the same, you know, conference. They're going to have to win their division first of all. But if you're going to compete with guys like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, not only did you build yourself a defense that could probably do a better job of slowing those players down, now you got yourself a quarterback who can help score those points. And I think that's the success right there. And it's up to the Dolphins to really put all that together.
Safid, how would you handle in getting him on the field? I've said this, that one, you got to start Fitz. You got to settle that offensive line. They have to be playing well. If Fitz is running around for his life like last year, you can't put Tua back there. You got to wait till Hun and Jackson, all these guys have settled down and they're actually playing well and giving Fitz time. Then you put him in there. And then the other part may be you're also mathematically ineligible for the playoffs. Then that would mean late in the season that Tua may have a chance to play, in my eyes, is if if the offensive line is playing well. What's your scenario for him to play?
I think if Tua's healthy, I think he's going to play. I agree wholeheartedly with the redshirt notion. I agree wholeheartedly with, having him sit, letting that offensive line develop, because the last thing you want him to do is not only work behind a porous offensive line, but work behind a young offensive line. But I think one of the things that Tua's game allows for him to play is how quickly he releases the ball. That's one of the things that really made him one of, that really sparked his rise to being one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, was how quickly he got the football, got rid of the football to players like Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, all those weapons Alabama's offense had. If the Dolphins can do a good job of getting their offense quickly into fruition, letting guys get into their reads, into their routes as soon as possible, and Tua can make, quick reads, quick decisions, not hold on to the ball for anything longer than 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, it's a recipe for success, right?
No,
more than 3, right?
Okay.
If he can get rid of the football quickly, that's probably one of the best parts of his game, though, how quickly he can get rid of the football. And if that's one thing that makes me, a little bit more open to him playing, that gives you a little bit, if you're an offensive lineman, that gives you some cushion as well, too, into how long you have to fend off the defenders coming into you. But I think I agree with the redshirt notion. I agree with it wholeheartedly. But if Tua's healthy to play, and if he's going to beat out Ryan Fitzpatrick in practice and Josh Rosen in practice, you got to play him. You can't really sit him anymore. You can't wait for the offensive line to really develop as long as you can. You got to get those guys moving quickly. But this is even a better part that the Dolphins have these players now. You have about 10 linemen on your team. You're going to try to find the 5 best. And whichever 5 are the best, you're going to go with them. And you're going to have to let Tua do his thing back there if he's healthy. I don't think you could really sit him if he's healthy.
And I got to say, they have already put their imprint on this team in one calendar year with the amount of people that they've added on the offensive line and the defensive line. They have clearly sent the message that they need to win at the line of scrimmage, right? I mean, that's what you've picked up as a writer when you see the trip through free agency and the draft, right?
100%. And you get to look at the Dolphins historically, right? So,
right.
Even before I got here, even when Adam Gase was the coach, I felt like the Dolphins always longed for another cornerback to play opposite Xavier Howard, right? Now you picked up Byron Jones and Noah Igbenogany. That's the first time I probably said it correctly, Big O, so give me a cheers for that. But you picked up 2 cornerbacks there, right, who are cover cornerbacks. You potentially have, if Xavier Howard's, knee doesn't hold up well in the next 2 seasons, you potentially have, his replacement there too. So you just came out of the offseason with 2 starting cornerbacks, right? Or somebody who's going to play nickel and you have Howard in the fold. Offensive line, you're probably one of the teams, the lonely teams in the NFL who drafted one of the fewest amounts of offensive linemen in most recent years. So you needed to build that area of the field as much as possible there. Pick up 3 offensive linemen. Brian Flores added 6 defensive linemen in free agency in this draft alone, along with those DBs that we just talked about. So he has a whole retool defense he can get to coach up and have for the next couple of years as well. So all around, man, I would have loved to see a running back early, DeAndre Swift or J.K. Dobbins with that 2nd round pick would have been my preference. You saw the Dolphins kind of notice that as well. That's why they went on and got Matt Breida. Hopefully Matt Breida can stay healthy here. He's had some injury issues in San Francisco. This was also one of the deepest receiver drafts too. I would have liked to see one of those guys come off the board, but you built the trenches on both sides of the football. You got a defense that Brian Flores can really work with. And after all, if you don't have the offensive weapons, you got the offensive weapon, and that's Tua reading his reads, getting rid of the ball quickly. And once he gets a hold of this offense and into the field, you'll see how much he has an effect on the other players already on the team.
So outside of Tua, who's one of those one or two players that you really like that the Dolphins picked that you think Dolphin fans are really going to enjoy because you got some good, some good scoops on him on what kind of player he is?
I'm interested to see how Robert Hunt does. The offensive lineman they took, I believe, in the third round or second round, excuse me. It's hard to keep track of where all these players went and how, because there's so many of them, right, Big-O?
Yep.
But Robert Hunt is one that intrigued me. He's a really, really great kid, a really great personality. His family went through a lot when he was, growing up in Louisiana, I believe. A tornado upended their home, and then a fire upended the family home as well. He's been through some adversity there. He went to Louisiana Lafayette, and he went to a camp, and he didn't have cleats on, or he didn't have the shiniest shoes or gear that other kids had, and still the school took a chance on him. And what did he do? He became a starter at the college level, and now he's a member of the Miami Dolphins, So look at a player with that kind of hunger, and I can imagine what this opportunity means for a player like him. And he's probably one player I'm most excited about to see on the offensive line because he's a mauler. Another mauler is Raekwon Davis, man. I saw Raekwon Davis play in that FSU-Alabama game in 2017, and I remember, the FSU quarterback kind of running for his life there. And when Raekwon Davis pushes through that gap, he's 6'7", 200-something pounds, man. That's a behemoth of a man coming after you on the defensive line. He's probably the one player I'm most excited about because I think he could have the biggest impact on this defense, on Brian Flores' defense when it's all said and done. Those are just two guys there, man. There's so many other guys. I really want to see how Malcolm Perry does on offense. You passed up on 16 wide receivers and 10 of the best running backs in this draft, and you ended up with Malcolm Perry, who was really exciting at the Navy level. Playing at Navy, excuse me. So I'm excited to see how it all unfolds, man. Hopefully we have a season to kind of see all this through, right, Big-O?
Yeah, no, that's the key, brother. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with the season. Listen, as capitalistic as that league is, they're going to find a way to play the games. Now, the question is, will there be fans in the stands? And how difficult will it be for guys like you to actually cover because you may not even be able to go in the locker room? I was thinking about this. I could actually see the players going to the podium and then, you guys have to send one pool reporter down with a bunch of questions, and then you're all watching on TV to get the answers or something like that because I don't see how they're going to allow all the reporters down there in the room. So have you guys gone back and forth to see how the hell they're going to allow you guys to cover this thing? Because you can't cover this from your house, dude. You've got to be somewhere in that stadium. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have to hear the interviews through a TV, you must at least have some kind of access.
Listen, Big-O, I'm not going to no damn locker room, that's for sure. That's like a petri dish of success waiting to happen right there, right?
Yeah.
But, I think I think fans in the stands too. I mean, come on, we're not even talking about this being. We don't even know if this is going to be safe for the players, or we're going to add people into the stands of it. I understand it's a business. I understand you got season tickets to sell. I understand that you're trying to, milk this situation for as much as you can, but we have to still remain cautious about all this here. As far as covering the team, covering the players, I imagine, media getting to watch the game as well. Everybody at home getting to watch the game if they're not in the stands, if they're allowed, I guess. But, I imagine podium thing. I imagine it's, a couple people in a room with a player or two. It's not the locker room access, seeing all the players after the game like we're all used to. But this is new times, man. This is new adjustments. We have a new norm here, and we're all kind of navigating it one day at a time.
Yeah, it's going to be funky, man. So overall, Safid, and we're talking with Safid Dean, of course, Dolphins writer for the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Follow him on Twitter like I and every other Dolphin should at Safid_Dean. He is a great follow, by the way. Got a great sense of humor. Safid, when you look at the free agent trip and now the draft, and I know it's silly to give out draft grades and all of that, but we still got to do it anyway for the hell of it. So what is your grade? How would you grade what Grier and company have done in this offseason to try to take that next step?
B+.
Okay.
B plus. I'm not going to give it an A yet. I have to, can't give the Dolphins all the credit in the world here, Big O. They got to win some games here. You don't win any games in March and April.
That's fine.
Brian Flores said that already himself,
That's fine.
For me, it would have been an A plus class if you would have got one of those top running backs. Okay. You got Matt Breida on a 1-year deal. Maybe he gets re-signed, maybe he doesn't. The backs in next year's draft are not as great as the backs that came out this year's draft. The wide receivers in next year's draft are probably just as good, if not better, than the wide receivers that came out this year. So I'm okay with passing on a receiver. If you would have got a running back, I'd give you that A+ grade. But also, you got to remember too, Big O, these, a lot of these players, whether it's Austin Jackson or Noah Ibenogany, Robert Hunt, these are guys with upside. They have not reached their potential yet. So it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time for these players to really develop and get into the grind of the NFL and really show their prowess as players here too. So it's all a work in progress for the Dolphins here on out. We don't know how good these players are going to be. We don't know if they're going to take to coaching. We don't know how they're going to take to this NFL lifestyle. We don't know how they're going to deal with the expectations of playing with a player like Tua and playing down here in Miami, playing under a coach like Brian Flores, where we're here in the media here already, raising expectations on a team that won 5 games last year. So I'm interested to see how it all comes out. I'm interested to see how next season unfolds with this team too. But I think the Dolphins really have a start here of something that could be special.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Let me run something by you on the running back end. I'm wondering if this was kind of their plan overall to kind of get by with the running game, because you still got to figure out the offensive line. So in the process, whoever are the backs, they're going to take some hits that they really don't, probably don't want. These are guys that are, Breida's on a 1-year deal. Howard, you got him on a 2-year deal. And so while you're developing the line and the quarterback, I'm wondering if they chose in a way to not maybe pick a running back and say, you know what, we can get by with Breida and Howard for now. We'll use them. And then in another year or two, when our line is settled and our quarterback is settled, we now can draft a running back in that first or second round, and we'll have him for 4 or 5 years. We won't have to pay him. And instead of using him over the next 2 years while you're developing the rest of the team, they're taking a beating and punishment and all of that. Maybe they want to hold off a little bit because it's not part of the plan yet. You think there's any chance to that? Did I lose him? Safid?
I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm sorry.
Right, go ahead.
I had you on mute for a second. Sorry, Big O. I think there's some notion to what you just mentioned there, but you look at pick 56, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pick 55 was J.K. Dobbins. He went to the Ravens.
Yep.
Okay, so pick 56 ended up being Raekwon Davis for the Dolphins, and I really think Raekwon Davis could have been on the board there at 70 for the Dolphins. But you don't know these things. This is all, in hindsight, right? But I think if J.K. Dobbins was available, I think the Dolphins would have picked him up right there if they wanted one of the best backs in the draft. Either way, you were going to have to build this C-line, build this O-line, build this, get a running back, whether it's this year or next year, you were still going to have to do it, right? And I think still the Dolphins aren't done on offensive line. I think next year, one of those picks is going to be offensive line again. Just like how some people say you should take a quarterback every year, you should wholeheartedly take an offensive lineman every year.
I believe
and
that.
Plug them in and see how that goes too. So, we could sit here and say, what the Dolphins did, what the Dolphins should have done. I think it's all, recipe for what they really did. And they have a whole lot of holes. I don't think there was any way the Dolphins were going to fill every single position hole that they had because, quite frankly, there were just too many. But I think they're off to a good start, and we'll see over the next couple of months, how this roster comes together, if they can find some guys in training camp, identify some players that stood out a little bit more than you had imagined. And, that's how we see guys like Preston Williams and Nick Needham and Patrick Laird become a part of the team last year, and I imagine there'll be a few of those this year too.
Well, Safid, I know my daughter's a lot closer to being a doctor since she is in medical school, and I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn last night, so I can't be a doctor either. But I'm going to play one here. And if you start the season in September or October, I don't believe Tua's ready to take a hit. He might be ready to practice and throw around and all that crap, but I don't believe that hip that you repaired in November is going to be ready to take punishment at the NFL level. So if the league is dragged back to mid-October to start this thing, how much does that benefit Tua? Because instead of playing, I don't believe you can play him early. But if you start in October, maybe you might be able to get a half a season in, because by middle to late November, now you're talking a year removed, and now maybe you start to get more comfortable on the doctor side of the thing for the Dolphins that he can take a hit. So how much of a delay do you think benefits him, or / how much do you disagree with me that you would take a chance and put Tua out there week 1 because you feel his hip will be ready to take a hit?
I think I don't know how much of a big difference a matter of weeks, we're talking about here does. Because we don't know how Tua's body is, how it responds, how everything has happened. I think if you look at his recovery now, from being cleared in March and then in April, cleared in March to begin working out, and then April putting out that pro day video and seeing the progress that he made there. And some of the things I'm hearing in the off-season training that he's doing, he'll be ready for minicamp. He'll be participating. That's for sure. I know. I think the best thing, if you want to do to really protect that hip, the Dolphins need to come out and say he's not going to play at all this year. Right? It gets us all off their back to say, okay, when is he playing? When is he playing? When is he playing? And then maybe later on the season, you unleash him. But you're what you mentioned just now about the season starting in October, who knows if we have a whole full 16-week season here. It could be a shortened season. If it's shortened, even more reason not to even put him on the field. Like, there's no reason to have it, all together. There's no reason to rush it at all. Right? But if he's healthy, if you see him and you're comfortable with where his recovery is, you've seen him in practice, you've seen him take a hit in practice, or how his hip has responded, and you're confident with it, that's Dolphins' decision. Ultimately, they hold it all in their hands now. So, Big O, it's hard to predict the future, man. I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. I don't know what the weather's going to be tomorrow. It's going to be hard to read what Tua's going to do in a couple months from now. But I think I'm much better having this conversation about Tua than having it about another player, because that's how special I think Tua is going to be.
I'm with you. All right, so we'll wrap it up with this. Safid Dean from the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, Dolphins writer, joining us. So what do you do with Josh Rosen? Because it looks like maybe early on he'll be the backup. But you and I know, and Flores has proven it to all of us, if you're not helping them win, they're not going to keep you on the field. They don't care what position you play, including quarterback. So what do you do with Rosen to try to create some value so maybe you can try to move him? That's, again, the unpredictable part of it is we don't know what Rosen we're going to get here. Does the light all of a sudden go on and the kid starts playing well, or it's the same guy that, is up and down and not get playing time? But how do you try to create something out of what seems like nothing right now value-wise with Josh Rosen?
And almost forgot he was on the team, Big O. With Josh Rosen, you have a steady back. You have a talented, cheap backup. That's a great recipe for a team that's running, how the Dolphins are operating right now. I think Josh Rosen's on the hook for probably 2 more years, less than $4 million. That's a great deal for a backup quarterback. You don't know what's going to happen for Fitz, how long you're going to have Fitz, and we already know how Tua's injury history has impacted, his draft stock and all those things the last 4 months. So the Dolphins, regardless of what they think of Josh Rosen, they need to worry about their backup quarterback just as much as their starting quarterback. Josh Rosen's still a good player, man. We got to remember he's a top 10 pick. On the field, he's had some struggles, sure, processing and all this. Chan Gailey's going to be, good Lord, I lost count of how many offensive coordinators Josh Rosen has played under since he was in UCLA. But it'll be another adjustment. Maybe this offense pans out better for him. I'm sure everybody said that for all the other offensive coordinators he's had too. But the Dolphins have a cheap backup who has some talent, and not a lot of teams can say that. Would you rather have Josh Rosen, or would you rather have Davie Fl as your backup? Or some other, some other players like that too, right?
Yeah, no, Rosen,
so yeah. You have a backup who could be competent for you. He's cheap. He's already on the roster. He can compete for the starting job. Let him try to compete with Rosen, with Fitzpatrick and Tua. you've got competition you wanted to foster, like Brian Flores wanted every other position. And you just hope that, he doesn't make a fuss about it. That's all. You have to hope that he's a team player, doesn't make any noise about his situation. And also you have to give, you have to give Rosen some rope here too, because, this kid was a number 10 pick, traded from the first team that took him. Now he's dealing with the same situation all over again, which he knew was going to happen for the past year or two. So I'm interested to see how the Rosen thing unfolds here. Maybe I would say if there was any time to trade him, it would have been during the draft. But the Dolphins are worried about their backup quarterback plan just as much as their starting quarterback plan, and having him in the fold here is a positive at this moment.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's definitely smart to keep him on the roster at this moment. Follow him on Twitter at Safid_Dean and catch his work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel, covering the Dolphins on a daily basis. Safid, as always, man, thank you for taking some time. Stay safe, my friend. We'll catch up soon.
You too, Big O. Appreciate it.
You got it, baby. Appreciate you. There you go. Safid Dean, man. Good stuff there. Appreciate him taking some time.